You're listening to the Word Slinger episode number 39, Asking for Everything with Dr. Renee Matthews.
If you would like to support this program, or any of Kevin Tomlinson's work, then we invite you to become a reader. Find fiction you will love at kevintomlinson.com/books.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, because otherwise I'd be hanging out in this little closet by myself. Now, you may have noticed that I disappeared there for a week or so. Sorry about that. We had a lot going on here in Word Slinger land, not the least of which was Tropical Storm Bill, which ended up not really doing as much as we were afraid it would do. But prior to that, we also had a lot of rain. A lot of flooding here in our area, and there's been some chaos around that, but I can't blame it all on the weather. My wife and I are still we're still working toward putting our house on the market and buying an RV and traveling full time, and so there's been a lot of work kind of surrounding that plan. It's very cool. I'm very excited about that, and my wife is getting stressed out to no end, and there's a weird sort of thing that happens when my wife starts getting stressed out over things like that. I start getting calmer. And I don't know why. The list of things to do is still there. It's as big as ever. It grows every day, it seems. And that can be pretty intimidating, but for some reason, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers Kara for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it will. It probably will. Maybe it's the scotch. The scotch could keep all of that at bay, I guess. That's what scotch is good for. Before I get started with the interview, a wonderful interview, by the way, Dr. Renee Matthews, who she was a lot of fun to talk to, despite the fact that we had trouble connecting at first. But I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But I wanted to give a special thanks, because I had two people come through with Patreon support, and I had some folks drop out. And I don't know why, and it doesn't matter why. I appreciated their support while it was there. It helped with the show, and goodbye, and thank you so much for contributing. But now I have two new contributors, Calvin, and I'm going to mess up your name, Calvin. I'm sorry, because I don't think it ever locked in my brain how to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. I met Calvin at the Sterling and Stone Summit, the Writers Summit that we went to together. And so hi, Calvin. But Calvin Chenier, and Calvin, man, you can call and correct me on that if I got it wrong. I'm really sorry. And I also got another contribution from Randall Chancellor, who is an old friend of mine from way back. So hi, Randall, and Randy, I think, is what we always used to call you. And if that's wrong too, man, sorry. From way back. So thanks so much, guys, for your support. It helps. It really does. And I do this show for guys like you. So I'm really glad that you're listening and that you're enjoying it and you feel like it's something worth supporting. If you'd like to support the show, I'd appreciate that, and it would be very helpful. You could go to my website. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, right now, there's a menu on wordslingerpodcast.com. There's a button you can click on to get to the Patreon campaign. I'll be the first to admit I need to retool a lot of stuff. The little intro video is kind of crappy. Kind of ashamed of that, considering my film and TV background. But you do things in a rush, and you want to move ahead, and you want momentum, and whatever. I got lots of excuses, but let's start fixing that stuff. But anyway, if you go to wordslingerpodcast.com, you can click on that little icon that will take you to the Patreon campaign, where you can actually, support me with as little as $1 an episode. That's like $4 a month to get these episodes. Whatever. I mean, or any amount you want. It's open, and every dollar helps. So whatever you'd like to do to contribute would be great. It greatly increases my ability to produce the show. You can also find in the menu bar, right now it's a button called Fund Me, which I'm thinking of changing to Sponsor or something like that, just for the heck of it. I don't know. You never know what's going to change at that website, to be honest. It's wordslingerpodcast.com actually points to a specific landing page on kevintumlinson.com, which is my overall page. That's always going through overhauls. It's about to get another one because I'm reducing a lot of what I do there, getting it all down to some pretty simple and basic stuff, because I think simplifying has been an overall theme in my life lately, especially as we move toward traveling full time. And I think I should do like a whole episode just on on the sort of nomad lifestyle Kara and I are aiming for. Maybe I'll do that. Anyway, I'll talk to you a little after the interview, but for now, let's jump in and let's talk to Dr. Renee Matthews of Ask Dr. Renee. And I really enjoyed this, and I hope you will too. I got a lot out of it, and I hope you do too. So, talk to you after the interview. Hey everybody! Now today I'm, I'm going to admit, because you know how I'm very open about the behind the scenes on this show, and we've kind of been a little frantic trying to get this together because for some reason my booking software didn't tell me anything. So, but I have somebody I think you're going to be interested in. We're going to be talking with Dr. Renee. She's Dr. Renee Matthews, and she's a talk show host, a freelance writer, a content creator, and a speaker. And a very patient woman, and I'm very appreciative of that last one. Renee, how are you doing?
I am great.
So, thanks so much for being on the show. I know we had a little bit of a snafu there at the beginning, but I think we pulled it off admirably.
Yeah,
even
no
with
problem.
the Skype timeouts and everything else. So, tell us. I've been perusing your bio, and I've been on your LinkedIn page, and I'm really impressed. It's not every day you get to talk to somebody who I get to be like 1 degree removed from Oprah Winfrey now. That's kind of cool.
Funny.
So tell us a little about what you do and why Oprah's so interested in you.
Okay. I am a medical doctor who decided that I didn't want to practice traditional medicine. So originally I educated doctors and nurses on how to collect umbilical cord blood, and I made sure all the units were safe for our bank so that we could transplant them and save lives. But I always wanted to be a health correspondent. Ever since I saw Dr. Nancy Snyderman on Good Morning America. Yes, I know she's on the Today Show now, but when I was a child, she was on Good Morning America.
I remember those
and I
days.
said, well, I'm glad you remember, because people are like, she's on the Today Show. I'm like, but she wasn't always there. But that's where I saw myself. I said, I can be just like her. And, of course, my mom, she was like, not everyone's going to end up on TV, so I don't know how you think you're going to get on TV. So I said, oh, fine, I'll deliver babies instead. So my fallback was OBGYN. But right out of medical school, I got a radio show on XM Radio, and it was actually, we were one channel away from Oprah's channel.
Oh.
And it was on a medical channel, and we talked to other doctors about medicine, and actually you could get continuing medical education credits from listening to some of our shows, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, well, if I can do this, 5 minutes out of medical school, well then, shoot, I can definitely get myself to television. I just have to work at it.
That's it.
So it's just been a process, and in 2014, I was on Roland Martin's News One Now on TV One, talking about health. I was on People to People on WGN America, talking about health. And I actually was on Katie Couric. I had entered a contest, and I didn't make it, but my video made it. And she, showed my video and stuff, and it was really cool. But I was like, oh, I can do this. And so I've done radio. I've done Sway in the Morning. I've done my own radio show, and actually I'm in the talks to have another radio show that would be for the general public instead of just for doctors and healthcare professionals. It would be for everyone to listen to on iHeartRadio, on SiriusXM, and all of that. And most recently I was on Cafe Mocha Radio with MC Light and Lonnie Love discussing health. So I am now living my dreams. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to, be a health correspondent and educate the masses instead of being in an office every day and just, only seeing to those 40 or 50 patients I saw a day. Now I'm getting my medicine out to a lot of people. I write for several online publications, including MadameNoir.com, GoodEnoughMother.com, and BlackDoctor.org, Black and Married with Kids. I've written for Ebony Magazine in the past, and so I am just trying to get that message out. Yeah. I now have this YouTube show, and the YouTube show is really just the whole basis of the show is just to motivate and inspire people, and this is my stepping stone to getting my own talk show. And my whole thing is I want everyone to be happy. I do not like being around miserable people, and I think life is entirely too short for us to be unhappy. So on my show, we tell the stories of these people who had just an idea. I think all of my guests except for one was an entrepreneur, and all of my guests, with the exception of maybe 5, are millionaires. But they just had an idea, and they just, they lived out that idea. And so the show is not it has nothing to do with medicine. It's just really about this is how we started and this is how we got here, just to motivate and inspire people to do what they do.
Yeah, I think the thing that impresses me most is that sort of attitude you came out of the gate with, which was, this is something I want to do, and I'm going to just keep trying to get closer and closer to it until I finally got it. I really respect that. That's kind of the approach that I've taken in my life. A lot of really successful people I know do that. What would you say to people who are, interested in the same sort of thing you are? Like, where do you start? Like, how do you come out of the gate like that? I am also a social media guru. I do social media management as well. I'm West Indian, so that's why I have so many jobs. Yeah. Yeah, it reminds
so we
me
hustle
of,
very hard.
That reminds me of Paul Brunson, Paul C.
Yes,
Brunson.
who is also West Indian.
Yeah, he said the same thing. He's like, I'm Jamaican. I got to have 15
Exactly.
businesses.
He's Jamaican. I'm Antiguan. But everyone remembers the family from In Living Color who was Jamaican.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, now I forgot their last name. But yeah, everyone remembers them. But we're Antiguan, but still we're West Indian. But I think that with social media, the sky is truly the limit.
Yeah.
The gatekeepers are gone. Like I said, I wrote for Black and Married with Kids. Lamar Tyler owns that website with his wife, Ronnie Tyler. Lamar has a book. I highly recommend it. The gatekeepers are gone. They are literally gone. You do not have to call and pray that the secretary will buzz you through to whomever you're trying to speak to.
Right.
You can go on Twitter and find the person and just, talk to them. Now, I have always told everyone, they may not answer, they may, but we will never know if we don't try. And so that's been my philosophy with everything. Like, if I don't try, I have no idea. With the YouTube show, I just started in December. I emailed 5 people, and I was like, I'm really good at talking myself out of ideas. Yeah. So I said, if I email these 5 people and they say that they're going to do it, then I'm going to have to do this because I'm not going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So I emailed them, and they all 5 said yes, they'd be on the show.
Yeah.
I said, oh, shoot, I'm in trouble.
now I have to invent a show.
Now I have to actually come through. So, and that's how I started. My whole thing is, and actually I went to a speaker's boot camp recently, and we received bracelets, and I wear it every day. It says, start before you're ready. Yes. That's it. You got to start before you're ready. You have to just go and do it. So if you know that, like I said, I want to be a talk show host, I literally DVR every single talk show that's on regular network television all day long and watch them all.
Yeah.
And I'm working in, like you said, Oprah. I love Oprah. I moved to Chicago in 2003, and my goal was to meet Oprah. And April of 2004, or March of 2004, I think it was, I was at the Oprah Winfrey Show. And Sally Lou said, if you would like to speak to Oprah, you need to stand up as soon as that sign says Oprah Winfrey After Show. So as soon as the thing turned, I stood right up, and my father says, Renee, you're blocking the view of the lady behind you. And I just looked at him, and all I know is cameras are on, and I'm about to cuss this man out. And I just was like, the cameras are on in my head. And so I was like, let me not say anything. So my mother quickly said, did you not hear the lady say, if you want to talk to Oprah, you need to stand up. She's about to talk to Oprah. And sure enough, Oprah goes, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And I was on. And I had rehearsed it with my sister, what I was going to say. And I said it without crying. And not that I have a stuttering problem, but I just knew that would be the day. So that's why I had to rehearse what I was going to say. So I didn't cry, and so I didn't stutter, and I was clear. And all I know is at the end of what I said, she said, "Come on down." And I said, "Oh, my God, oh, my God." And so I went down and sat down next to her. She gave me the death grip of life. The lady would not let me leave. Her hand was so tight around my hand. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going anywhere. And so this is whole internal conversation. And if you watch the video on my YouTube channel, you'll crack up because it does not look like I'm having that internal conversation. But I really was having this whole conversation about, I'm really sitting here. Wow, she's got a lot of gray hair. Wow, our heads are really big. And I mean, I was having a whole conversation, and she was wonderful, and we talked for the entire segment, and as soon as I sat down, though, she pointed and said, "There's your picture," and I could see it on the monitor. We smiled. He snapped the picture, and they sent me my picture, and then I went again. I went to the Oprah Winfrey Show every season that I lived here except for one, and I was at the finale.
Oh, nice.
And I really am a firm believer in The Secret, which was also on Oprah, but I knew nothing about it when it was on Oprah. I just know that I speak whatever I want to happen, and then I follow the steps to make it happen. And I knew that I wanted to meet Oprah, and I was like, I'm going to meet Oprah, and this is what I'm going to tell her, and I did it. And so I have 2 pictures.
That's very cool. I
have videos.
I'm scrolling through your YouTube channel trying to find the video of you and Oprah. I'll have to look. I'll have to come back
under I'll tell you, it's under favorites, I believe.
Under favorites, I'll look for it after the show. So, I can't wait to see that. Name it and claim it, right? I mean, you
exactly.
I like that. And I use a lot of that in my own work. I mean, in my own life, and so I completely understand. My grandfather, I always quote this on the show, so people are rolling their eyes right now. But he had a saying that I never got a thing I didn't ask for, even if it was a punch in the mouth. So,
Wait, say it again?
I never got a thing I didn't ask for, even if it was a punch in the mouth.
I love it.
So that's been an overriding philosophy in my life. So I'm glad to hear that works for other people too. So.
Yes, definitely. I mean, honestly, when I tell you Twitter is everything, I sat there and was tweeting one night. We were watching OWN, me and my sister, my mom on three-way, tweeted, and Sherry Salata, who is basically Oprah's right-hand woman, she retweets my tweet.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I remember.
And after a visit to the studio, she started following me on Twitter, and still does. This is 2 years later.
I remember.
And she does not follow many.
I practically lost my mind when Steve Martin and Drew Carey responded to some of my tweets on Twitter. So that's a powerful thing, and it is.
Oh, no, I would too.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable though, right? Because
it is.
For the first time in history, you can have a conversation not just with somebody who's across the planet from you, but who would be socially out of reach for you.
Exactly.
It's really amazing. So what do you? Tell me more about your show. Like, what is the premise of your show?
It's really, I guess it's very simple. Motivate and inspire.
It's the Ask Dr. Renee show, right?
Yes, exactly.
Motivate and inspire.
And that's all we're doing. Like I said, the YouTube show, I want to keep it simple because I just use webcam because I'm still paying my student loans and I'm not getting paid for this show. So we keep it very low key. It's just webcam. So therefore, all my guests, wherever they're at, they can be on the show because I don't have to worry about a crew and all that stuff. And so it's really, really, really simple. Keep it basic. Now, all of my guests, because of course I'm trying to build this following, have a larger following than me, and I just asked them to kindly share the promotional stuff with everyone else. But we've had some pretty nice guests that I think I was shocked, but at the same time I told somebody in my little interview request, I never ever say anything like, well, I understand if you don't want to do it. I never say that because I just assume they're going to say yes.
Right, yeah.
So Renee Seiler, who used to sit where Gayle King sits on the CBS Early Show, she was on my show. I'm very excited for June 7th, we have DJ D Nice from Boogie Down Productions. If you're a hip-hop person, he's also a world-renowned DJ now. He's a photographer. He's taking pictures of a lot of people in the music industry in all genres. But so we're talking to him. May 24th, we're talking to Royale Watkins. Royale is he's a comedian, but he's a TV writer. He's written for several sitcoms, as well as he's been in movies. Deliver Us from Eva is one movie that's off the top of my head. And, of course, he was on Def Comedy Jam, like every other comedian started. And so, I mean, we've had some really cool Paul Carrick Brunson was on the show, of course. Diane Valentine, who has done every celebrity's wedding known to man, just about. So we've had some really cool guests, but they all have very interesting stories. And because they're friends of mine, I knew that they had these stories, and I knew that I knew them. But I thought if other people heard them, it might help them to not quit, or inspire them to really actually, work on that dream that you've had, and make it come true.
Yeah. So, you do these, okay, so they're webcam, but you're talking to some pretty high-profile people. I mean, how do they respond generally when you say, I want to interview you and I want it on
like
webcam?
I said, these are actually my friends.
Okay.
God is great.
Yeah.
So since they're my friends, I think that's the reason why they're like, oh, okay, like no questions asked. They say yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm just starting. I really don't have that many views yet. I don't even have 200 subscribers to my channel.
Right.
But I think because they're my friends, they're like, yeah, we'll do it for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so great. Thank you.
That is very cool. Yeah. I mean,
Because I'm nervous and I think about it before I ask them. Because Paul was on that first list of 5.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the first 5 I emailed. And Paul has quite a following. I mean,
Yes, he
the
does,
subscribers on YouTube, the Twitter, Instagram, etc. He has quite a huge following. And I was like, but he said yes right away.
Yeah. Well, and that's Paul. I mean,
Yeah.
I've only met him, quote unquote, virtually, and I had him on the show, and he's just, he's funny, and he's got the whole sexy black man voice going for him, and he's he's a lot of fun to talk to. So,
Yeah.
and he loves making fun of being. Well, he doesn't make fun of it. I mean, he just points out that he's Jamaican, and that's kind of the answer to everything.
I know, but people say that to me. They're like, Renee, because I'll tell you, the other side of me is that I have an entertainment company.
Okay.
So that's why I think that's part of the reason why I know a lot of people in entertainment is because I have an entertainment company, and I've moved through those channels. I've worked with a lot of old school artists, and I had a young hip hop artist, and so I've moved through the BETs and all that stuff. So I think that's why that's part of the reason why I know these people. The other reason I really do say has to be Twitter.
Yeah.
I have met so many people via Twitter, but the big key, just like Paul will tell you with online dating, is immediately take it offline. Yeah. I have met these people via Twitter, and then I end up in their city, and I make sure I reach out to them, and I meet them in person.
Yeah.
So Paul and I, we met via Twitter. Then we became Facebook friends. Then Paul came to Chicago when he was doing the show for OWN to do Upfront, and we met in person and had like a 3-hour conversation.
Nice. Yeah.
And then every time that we're in the same city, we always make sure we connect.
Yeah. That's good advice, because I think the thing that's kind of the sort of secret ingredient, the missing secret ingredient, I think, is that we're all hyper connected now, but we're not always connecting. Like, it's different to meet someone in person. Although I have very good friends, pardon me, I have very good friends that I have actually never met in person. My business partner I've never met in person. So it is possible. But it's good to have that FaceTime.
Just like the young lady that did my sizzle reel, I still have not met her.
Yeah.
My demo reel. Never met her. She did an excellent job.
Yeah.
We just never met in person. But she did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know if she passed me on the street. She does live in Chicago.
Oh,
so
really?
I would like to change which is crazy, right? We live in the same city. But I would like to definitely make sure I meet her, soon. But we just have not met. But she's handled it all. And my graphic designer I've only met one time, but we are thick as thieves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lindsay Park, she was on my show. Her company is Money Graphics. She designed my cards, and she's designing my my media kit for me. My cousin actually made the logo, though, the cute little doctor.
Okay.
My cousin created the logo, and then she's just designed all the stuff with the logo. But yeah, we've met one time. We were at a conference. We sat on a panel together. That's where I met her. I've never seen her again, but we talk probably once a week.
Right.
And we text all the time, and that's my girl.
There you go. I love how that's shaking out. Like, that's becoming the new normal.
Right. And I mean, and people think it's crazy because, like, when Twitter first started, people thought it was so crazy, and they're like, what are you doing? Why? Blah, blah, blah. But I tried to explain to people, but people didn't get it. Yeah. But then I started reaping the benefits, and I said, it's not for every, line of business, but I have gotten calls from clients when I was, all my entertainment stuff. I got calls for clients that I didn't even know these people were following us, but they were. Yeah. And they said, can we please have this person on our show? Can we please, do this? Would they do that? And I was like, wow. And this was from Twitter. Yeah. And then just like me writing for Good Enough Mother, I saw Renee Seiler on Twitter. I followed her. She ended up following me back. I had been peeping out her site, noticed they didn't have a doctor's opinion on the site, and I offered up my services. And sure enough, she said, yes, we would love to have you. So that'll be 2 years this summer.
How much time does this take for you to cultivate these Twitter relationships?
It depends on, because sometimes I will sit there and follow someone for 6 months and then finally I'll ask them, say whatever I needed to, wanted to say. I firmly believe that with networking, you need to offer your services before you ask somebody for something. So in that 6 months, I am probably retweeting everything that they're doing and, supporting what they're doing and all that stuff. And then I might say, hey, this is what I do. Can you,
Yeah.
And then usually they don't say no,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're sort of an investment that happens. Almost like.
Exactly.
You kind of end up getting them to invest in reverse. You're
right.
the one building the relationship, but then they become committed to it.
Right. And, I've tried to tell people, and my mother says my first book needs to be about networking, and maybe it will be, but I was always an excellent networker, period. Mm-hmm. Social media has just taken me to the nth power, and it's crazy because I was pretty darn good before that because I remember I met this man. I didn't even know this man an hour, and he said, you're the person that will be in a room full of people, but you will walk out with the contacts of the most important people in that room.
Yeah, that's very
And
good.
I was like, you are so right. I don't play. And I'm like, if it's a networking event, it's a business event, I'll tell you a perfect example, Jermaine Dupree. Mm-hmm. I saw his dad. He was walking in the mall. Nobody knew who that man was but me. I said, excuse me. And he thought I was saying, excuse me, like he was in my way, get out of my way. I go, no, Mr. Malden, I know who you are. He's like, you do? I was like, yes. And we had a lovely conversation. That man is very nice. I've been to dinner with the man. Perfect.
That's very
cool. And it was funny because people were like, well, how did you know who he was? I said, because I do my research. That's one thing. If whatever you want to do, if it is you want to be a talk show host, make sure you study them. So God, if the stars line up and you meet one, know what to say.
Yeah, yeah.
But more importantly, know the people behind the scenes. Like if you go through my LinkedIn, I have almost every producer on Oz, every producer on Meredith Vieira. I have a lot of producers that I'm connected to because I know who the decision makers are.
Yeah.
And I make sure that I know those people and that they know me. And so that's the thing. And even when I do my entertainment stuff, we do management and PR and booking. So I read the liner notes in CDs. Huh. And I know the behind-the-scenes people. So when I run into them, I know exactly what to say and how to make them feel great. And I know what you worked on.
Yeah.
So I know, and that does require, if you're going to a networking event and they tell you these are the main panelists that are going to be at the event or whatever, then do your research about those people. People that walk up to me and think I'm a PhD, you clearly did not research who I am, because everywhere it says I'm an MD. Yeah. So, it's those little things that you need to pay attention, and I met this other lady, she works for Nike.
Okay.
And she works with the talent. Well, I knew that she was going to be there, and I knew her name sounded familiar. And let me tell you, it's a lucky thing I keep old magazines. I found her name in the old magazine and read the article again the day before I met her. And when I walked up to her, she was so impressed. And we are still cool to this day.
That's interesting.
I run into her. Mind you, I might only see the woman once a year. Yeah. But I run into her. She knows exactly who I am. I say hi. She says hi. We get hugs, blah, blah, blah. And she hooked my client up with free product. So,
oh, nice.
That's the thing. You have to. And people are like, how do you get this stuff? I said, because I am nice.
Yeah.
And that's one of my golden rules is I treat everybody exactly the way I'd like to be treated.
Exactly.
To the janitor at the studio, I treat everyone exactly the way I'd like to be treated because you just never know.
Yeah. And that's the golden rule in action right there. I mean, that's that's what it's all about in the end. Treat everybody.
And I think that's why I get these people on my show too. I treat everybody like the same, and everyone. And somebody a couple people have said everyone loves Dr. Renee. Well, I try to be nice to everybody, and I try to help everyone that I can. If I can help you, I will help you.
Yeah, that's the best way to live, I think.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, when you're ready to start working on your book, let me know. I'll throw you some free author coaching. I'll help you out.
I need it. I can't get off of square one.
That's a common problem everybody has.
I know.
But I can help you with that. So,
Okay.
all right. So, what is that conversation on Twitter like, though? So meeting them in person, I mean, I'm impressed that you do that much research. I'll be honest. It just floors me. I don't think I could do it. I know I could do it, but it's sort of like, wow, that's a commitment, and kudos. But when you're just sort of interacting with them online, I mean, what's that conversation like? Do you, clearly you're not going and pitching things to them. I mean, you're just responding, or how's that work?
So, I mean, honestly, it's really organic, like, especially back in the day of Twitter. It was so organic. It was just, like, we'd watch TV shows together.
Yeah.
It was just really corny stuff like that. We had musical interests that were the same. And then, it's like, I can't, because I never even told her, so I can't say who, but I have a friend that we just were really cool. And I knew what she did, but she didn't know that I knew what she did, and she didn't know what I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're just going to slowly play this out. And and literally it was very organic. Like, we liked very similar things. We'd be on Twitter at the same time. We'd chat. And it just developed from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
I can give you a perfect example. Bevy Smith, who is on Fashion Queens on Bravo.
Okay.
She'll if you ask her today, she'll tell you I was her first Twitter friend. So Bevy... And Bevy used to do a commentary of The View every single day.
Okay.
But I didn't have internet on my phone. This was back when I had a Palm Trio. So I had the text messages of Twitter. So I literally would only allow certain people to come through, but I would let hers come through. And I would be sitting in my desk at work, and I'd be reading her tweets about The View. I didn't even need to tape it or watch it. Like, her commentary was the bomb, okay?
Okay.
And so I would slowly start saying stuff to her, and she would respond. My sister started watching her stuff too, and she would say stuff too. So it took us a while, but finally we told her we were sisters, and she told everyone, "Oh my God, Foodie Engineer and Dr. Renee are sisters." It was so funny. So we finally meet in person at the Essence Festival that year, and she was telling everyone that was around us, "We met via Twitter. We met via Twitter." And she was like, and then she told one of her friends, but I gave her my number because I knew she wasn't crazy. and so, I mean, and that was just literally, and honestly, I had looked up who she was and stuff, and I had heard about her brand. And actually, the reason why I followed her is because an artist that I know had been to one of her events as a guest, and so I was like, oh, well, who's this lady, what's this she's going to? And that's how I had found out about her and why I started following her, and just literally just talking about, pop culture, like nothing really.
Yeah. Hey,
lighthearted conversation.
Connecting.
Exactly. And, another person that I connected with, I love New Edition. I'm probably one of their biggest fans, and they know it, which is okay. So my favorite is Ralph Tresvant, and I'm part of course the New Edition fan club, of course.
Okay.
So the fan club, we get to go to the meet and greets, and so we get to go to sound check. So we went to sound check, and then we went to the meet and greet, and Ralph was the first person standing there. And for a very long time, my picture was not on Twitter, and Paul got on me about that, and that's why it is on there now. But on one of my accounts. And so I go, and I said hi, and he's like, "Hi, thank you for coming, blah, blah, blah." So then I tell him, I go, "I'm Dr. Renee. You follow me on Twitter?" And his eyes got so big, he gave me the biggest hug, a second hug, and he was like, and then he turns to Johnny Gill and says, "This girl gives the best information on Twitter." And I mean, he just made my life, okay?
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And then years later, somebody was interviewing them and asked him if he knew who I was, and he did. So he really knows who I am, and that just, makes me so happy that, I think I grew up as a kid, dreaming and wishing, and he actually does know me.
Wow.
So it's cool.
That'd
But
be
yeah,
like-
that was just me retweeting and then, just commenting. He would say stuff and I'd say this and,
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be like Stephen King saying he reads my blog.
Exactly. That I understand,
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
so what do you, okay, you're saying that the show isn't your full-time gig. You said you had a media company?
Yeah, so we have the entertainment. The full-time gig really is Ask Dr. Renee. That is a whole lot of work because I'm not a writer. I'm a scientist.
Yeah.
I am a doctor. And so for me to write, because I write for several different people, plus I have my own blog. So for me to write for all these other sites and keep up with mine is a chore.
Yeah.
And then to prepare, like I do everything for the Ask Dr. Renee show, which is weekly, which I'm sure you understand too. Yes. I do everything, so therefore I have to book, and I mean, I didn't know how much work went into production, which this whole booking thing and having to get people and make sure, and then because it's Google Hangout and a lot of people have never used the platform, I do rehearsals because I'm terrified that it's going to take you 30 minutes and we will be 30 minutes into the show while you're trying to download the program,
Yeah.
So I do rehearsals and then setting up rehearsals, and it's a lot of work. The entertainment company, I've been trying to scale back, but they keep pulling me back. But so I don't have that many clients right now with that, but we have a few. And but my whole thing, and Paul had asked me, and I was like, I love everything I do, and that's very important to me.
Yeah.
I am happy when I get up, and I am like literally having to put myself to sleep because I do not want to stop working. And I forget to eat half the time because all I do is work. I get out of bed, and I go to my computer, and I start working. So the great thing is I can do everything from the computer, so I can be anywhere.
Yeah.
So I can be, I went home for Christmas, and I did my show from my parents' house. And I was in Atlanta half of April, and I did my show from the house I was at in Atlanta, So that's the convenience of it. Like I said, I can't wait to have, my actual real talk show. But for now, this has been wonderful. I'm getting such great responses from all the articles that I write. I am touching people and affecting people. And my whole thing is because I had asthma as growing up. So I was always a sick kid. So I grew up in hospitals. So that's part of the reason why I'm a doctor, because this is what I knew. And I understood because I was growing up sick. I knew what they were talking about. But I understand that many people go to the doctor and have no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so what I love is that I am able to explain these very difficult things in such a way that people understand, and then they're able to ask the right questions to their physicians. They're able to recognize, because I just recently did an article, I'm sure, everyone knows about Bruce Jenner, and so I did an article for Madame Noir about transgender health and how, this is how you identify, if you see these signs in your child, or you're an adult and you have these signs and symptoms, you might have gender dysphoria and you might be transgendered. And and it's not an illness, it's not a mental illness, but there are some anxiety and depression that come along with it that needs to be addressed. And so, that was a huge conversation. And people were like, thank you, I understand. And, this was me many years ago, blah, 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 Yeah. I did a story about bipolar disorder and explained the signs and symptoms with that. And people came out and said how they, they struggled with it for the years and blah, blah, And so in my very first article, I remember Madame Noir, I talked about, do virgins need to have the HPV vaccine? And it was a very interesting conversation that really sparked a huge conversation in the comments. But, moms understood, like, okay, now I understand why I probably should versus why I shouldn't, because people did not realize all the different ways that children, they might not be having actual intercourse, but there's other things that can cause them to get, open themselves to possibly getting an STD. And they didn't realize that. Yeah. And I said, they might tell you this, but they might be doing this. And, they were like, oh, my goodness. So a lot of moms were thankful I did that article. So, that's what gives me joy because it takes me forever to write this stuff.
So where do your articles appear?
So I write for MadameNoir.com.
Oh, yeah.
I do the Q&As for BlackDoctor.org.
Okay.
And so anytime people send in questions, I'm the one that's answering the questions. And then Diary of a First-Time Mom, GoodEnoughMother.com. And then, of course, my site. So if you come to my site, usually I do a teaser on my site to send you to wherever my articles are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool. You making?
Yeah, I try to make that the hub.
Is that your primary income, that work, or
Yes.
is it? Okay.
Yes.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, as a writer myself, that's I'm always interested to hear how other people are making a living writing, and it's always odd to me how many people I know who are self-proclaimed as being not writers who actually make a very good living writing.
Right. That's me all day. But you know what? I was told many years ago, somebody said to me that I should get a TV show, and I thought they were crazy because I was actually talking to them about my clients. Mm-hmm. So I said, "You're losing focus." And so I revisited it a couple years after that. I was like, you might have been onto something. Maybe I do want to have a show. So I said, what do I need to do? So this is somebody in L.A. He's in the industry. He said, you need to develop a following. So I think you should start blogging.
Yeah.
So 2008, I started the blog. But, I had a day job. I really was not thinking about it. Plus, I was still doing the entertainment company, and the entertainment company was basically another full-time job.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time to blog. So I would blog once every, 4 months. It was horrible. So when my day job was eliminated in 2013, I said, you know what? I can do this. And everyone was like, you can do it. Renee, do it, because I was going to look for a job.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, stop. You need to do this. You can get paid to do this. Do this. So I started blogging regularly, and then slowly but surely, I started writing for other people and getting paid to write. I wrote for free for the first few, and then next I was getting paid to write.
And how did that progress? I mean, how quickly did that progress? You started writing your blog.
So I'll tell you when. June 24th, 2013 is when I lost my job. By January of 2015, I had my first paid writing gig.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wrote for free June to December, and then. Mm-hmm.
And how much of that do you think is because of you have a narrow topic in some sense. You specialized in a way. Do you think that that's largely responsible for it being picked up so quickly?
I think so, because I noticed on several of these websites that cater to different demographics that want to talk about everything, they didn't have anybody talking about health.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was just me looking around and was like, wait a minute, but you don't have a health person.
Yeah.
And so they were like, oh, yeah.
So you saw a need and you filled a need.
Exactly.
That's very cool. That's the way I tell people to do it.
Yep.
So that's pretty much your day job. That's cool. I'm impressed that you have a great energy, and I can tell you work hard at this, but you kind of make it seem effortless, I'm going to say.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm sitting over here thinking, man, I've literally been writing professionally since I was 12 years old, and I don't think I've got quite the following you've managed to pull together, so I'm impressed.
But it's really about content, and I learned this early on, and then Renee Seiler reiterated it, because Renee, I don't know if you know her story, but she was fired from the CBS Early Show.
Oh, yeah.
And she talked about that on my show. She was fired, and she was like, what am I going to do? Because she was a woman of a certain age, and not necessarily were they trying to hire her, other news outlets, and she really figured out that she did not want to do that anymore. But she had written this wonderful book, Good Enough Mother. So she sat there in her walk-in closet, which is where she did her interview for my show, too. It's Good Enough Mother World Headquarters. And that's where she started her brand. And she taught herself how to do social media.
Yeah.
She taught herself the new editing, softwares, because, of course, she knew about how to edit because she was a news reporter.
Right.
But she taught herself all of the newfangled stuff, especially with the computer. And she literally started her blog and was the only person writing for her blog, and really created this huge brand. Her website gets, I'm sure, over 300,000 hits a day.
Yeah.
she is on the Today Show at least twice a month talking about health and, talking about parenting tips and, women and all that stuff, working women and moms. Mm-hmm. And she has so many brands that partner with her. I mean, GM, she's got, it's a long list of brands that partner with her. Disney. Yeah. Just ridiculous. And she created all of this herself. And now there's 10 of us that write for her on her site.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, I like
that.
But,
and so that is a perfect example of, she was a journalist, so she knew how to write.
Yeah.
And she just, you just got to go and just do it.
Yeah. Did you approach any of these people yourself, or did all of them sort of find you?
No. I asked Renee. I sent her a message. I remember, because like I said, she started following me on Twitter. So I for a minute I left it alone, and then I finally DM'd her and said, "Hi, I just wondered how could I submit to write for your site?"
Yeah.
And she responded.
You asked, and then somebody actually gave you an answer.
Exactly.
What a concept.
She sent me the email address. I emailed her, and she didn't respond. So then I let a little while go by. So then I sent her another message. She goes, "Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. I missed your email. Can you send it again?" I was like, "No problem." I did, and she responded instantaneously with directions on how to upload to the site.
Okay.
And what am I going to do?
That story says volumes, because I think what happens to a lot of people, and I'm including myself in this, okay? But I think what happens is they didn't get a response, or they didn't get the response they wanted, or something along those lines, and they decide that the message was, well, I'm not interested. But the message in reality is, I'm very busy and I didn't see it.
Yes.
Or something along those lines.
The other big thing that everyone always says to me is, "Renee, you are so good at follow-up." Yeah. Oh, I am not going to let you forget. My one friend calls it stalking with a purpose.
Yeah.
I am not going to let you forget, and I'm going to remind you, and I'm telling you, the rewards I've gotten because I'm very persistent and I do follow up are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even going back to in college, I wanted to work with this OBGYN for the summer. I was an engineering major, but I knew I always wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And so I was just taking the prereqs for medical school, and I knew that in the summer when I didn't get an engineering, internship, I said, well, I'll just work at the doctor's office. So I literally called and called and called and called, and she was just busy. Yeah. And finally, she answered, and she said yes. So when I showed up at the office, one of the nurses pointed it out and said, you were so persistent, but I'm so glad you were, because look where you are. And I was there for 4 summers.
Wow.
And I went to deliveries. I went to surgery. I saw so much before med school. I knew that I belonged in med school.
Yeah. That's very cool. I think, actually, when I think back on all the jobs I ever actually loved when I was working for anyone else, the ones I really loved were the ones that I decided I wanted, and I went after them.
Right.
With that kind of tenacity. I contacted, anyone I knew who worked there, anyone I knew anyone who worked there, and then suddenly I'm working there. So, yeah, that's fantastic.
And and she's my mentor to this day. I can text her when I need drugs. You know what I mean? It's like that, and I'm texting her, personal cell phone.
Yeah.
And she and I are thick as thieves. And so that's what I'm saying. It's just, like I said, my mother said my networking skills have always been good.
Yeah.
Going back for a long time.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, and I always knew the right people to partner up with. I tried to, I always surrounded myself, my parents watch my show every week. And of course, a lot of my friends aren't necessarily living in Chicago that are on my show.
Yeah.
So my parents haven't met, some of these people. And so they're watching and they're like, you know these people?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, my friend Shanti Das was on the show. Shanti Das, I'm sure you're familiar with Outkast. Mm-hmm. She is the person that brought Outkast to the masses.
Oh, okay.
She was the person at the record label that helped bring them out of Atlanta so that everybody else knew about them.
Oh, that's very cool. That's a cool.
Yeah.
I love.
So
legacy
she's
stories.
recently, because they just had this anniversary, their 20th last year.
Yeah.
She produced a lot of projects on different cable networks about them and stuff, and she was involved. And she went to the show. They did some reunion shows. She went to those concerts and stuff. So my parents are like, and you know her.
People ask me things like that all the time. I get some really. I am so just ridiculously grateful for the people who end up on my show. Just because, I started my show you and I have some parallels. I mean, I started my show so that I had an excuse to talk to some of these people. Like I just wanted to kind of mastermind with some of these people, and it's turned out to be fantastic. Like I just love it, and every time I have someone on the show, I always end up asking, like, do you know anyone who'd be a good fit? Could you introduce me? And the chain keeps going, and so you meet these amazing people who become part of your life. It's really cool. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Another person was on my show, Sherry Riley, who also worked at LaFace Records, and she was very instrumental in Usher's career.
Oh, wow.
She knew him before he was signed, and she helped him to get his stuff out there. She was like, she has some policy that she tries to meet 5 new people a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that is so interesting.
That
like,
is
I've never even
interesting.
thought of that. And then she'll try and sit down with those 5 people, and then she asks them, do you know 5 more people that I could talk to?
Yeah.
And that's how she grows. And I was like, that's so
brilliant.
wild.
Yeah, that's actually
Right.
very smart.
Never heard of that, but that's really smart.
Yeah, that's very smart because you never know what connections will lead to what. So,
Exactly.
That's fantastic. All right.
Which is, once again, why I say be nice to everybody.
Exactly. Treat everyone like a king, and then you won't end up as a pauper. So we're gonna have to wrap up, but I am really glad we were able to do this, and I know there was a hiccup
Oh, no
at the
problem.
beginning, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know why. My booking software is usually very reliable, so
Like I said, it was probably my computer. You think I'm joking?
Okay.
I just recently found out that my internet is 6 megabytes per second, and I did not realize that I was quite behind everybody else. So
Yeah,
trying
well,
to make a change real quickly here.
My wife and I are planning to. We're actually in the process of selling our home, and we're going to buy a travel trailer and travel for a year or two.
Wow.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. And but the hang up is everything I do is online. So, it's very expensive to get, high speed mobile internet. So we're looking at various options, and some of them
you
aren't
need to
so
get
great.
one of those GM vehicles that comes with Wi-Fi.
I know, but then they charge you. I mean, it still works out the same.
Right.
So we'll do that. But thank you so much for being on the show. And after it's all said and done, I'm going to tell everybody where to go. But you're basically everywhere online. You're just Ask Dr. Renee, which is a smart thing to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So
consistency.
yeah,
Branding.
if you want to check her out, you can go to AskDrRenee.info, where you can see pretty much everything you would ever want to know about Dr. Renee. And you can find her on YouTube, and I'm going to put a link to her show in the show notes, as well as links to various other things. So go check those out. If you're driving, pull over and do that safely. So, Dr. Renee, thank you so much for being on, and we're going to have to get you on again. I love talking to you. Let's keep the conversation going.
Oh, definitely.
All right.
Thank you so much, Kevin. This was great.
All right. See you next week, everybody. So that was my interview with Dr. Renee Matthews. I love talking to people who are, they're essentially accomplishing the kind of thing that I'm trying to accomplish, and using the same sort of philosophy that I like to use. That quote that I keep throwing out practically every episode that comes from my grandfather. I mean, that really is a guiding principle in my life. The idea that you can ask for, that you are literally asking for everything that's happening in your life. That's a guiding principle for me. And I think it works as a guiding principle for anyone. I think that if you look at the life you have, the life you have is the result of the things that you're asking for. And I think that makes some people unhappy because they don't want to think of some miserable situation they're in as being something that they asked for. And I get that. I really do. I mean, I think that that's when you have to kind of, have that wake-up call, that splash of cold water in your face to realize that if I want something different in my life, I got to learn how to ask for exactly what I want, and then do the things that are required of that ask, And you ask through your actions as much as words. I mean, there's a sort of metaphysical idea out there right now, because of things like The Secret and Law of Attraction and that sort of thing, that if you just think positively enough and just ask enough, in your prayer and in your soul, things will happen. And I feel like that's partially true. I feel like that sort of thing does have an impact because your outlook affects your actions and your attitude affects your actions. So if you are concentrating on keeping your thoughts positive and always looking for the good in every situation and looking for the opportunity in every situation, I absolutely think that that's sort of a law of attraction in play. I mean, metaphysical or not, I think that it's true. I think that no matter how you get there, getting there is what's important, right? But I think that also it's what actions are you taking? What plans are you making? What are you doing? And what are your ideas? And what are you doing to put those ideas into action? And I think that's what determines a lot of success. So, anyway, all that aside. Thanks so much for tuning in again this week. I enjoyed this interview. I hope you did too. And, I got some stuff coming up, man. So I got a couple of pretty powerful interviews coming up that I think you're going to want to tune into. And there's something, I have a kind of call to action for you. Now, I always have kind of a call to action. Every episode asks you to do things like, call me up for consulting or coaching or something like that, or read my books is really what I want people to do. Go off and read my books. Now, I'm recording this. Let's see. This is Friday. What is today? The 19th, which happens to be, and this is going to release this day. So, now if you're doing the math, that means I'm actually behind. I usually try to record these in advance so that I can drop them on a schedule. But I'm a little behind thanks to everything. And this week is the release. This Friday, today, is the release of my new book, Evergreen, which is let's call it, it's kind of like I think of it sort of like a Born Identity with a little bit of contemporary sci-fi thrown in there. I think you'll dig it. I mean, I think if you like books like Born Identity, stories like that, where there's some action and intrigue, and if you liked any of my previous work, of course, you'll like it. But that's sort of the scale I put that on. I think it fits nicely into that category. So go check that out. It's available. It was available for pre-order for the past week or two, and I did not get to do any of the marketing I wanted to do for it because of chaos. That's more my fault than anything, though. But now you can go buy it straight up on Amazon. It's only available on Amazon for the moment at a special price. I think it's $2.99. It will eventually be available on every platform. And the price will eventually go up. So this is a good time to buy it. So if you're an Amazon reader, a Kindle reader, go pick it up now. And when you do that, give it a review. I would greatly appreciate that. They're very helpful. Give it stars, but also give it a written review. I hope you dig it. I really do. And I know this first release, because it didn't go through as many rounds with beta readers as they normally do, I know there are going to be typos. I know there's going to be little issues like that. That's why I try to limit the release to one platform up front. So anyway, go check that out. Let me know if you got it. In fact, why don't you hop onto wordslingerpodcast.com. You can send me an email from there. You can also call me. If you have questions for the show, questions about writing, questions about any of the topics that I cover with my guests, questions about, life in general, I will answer anything. Ask me anything. So give me a call at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And once again, I want to just extend my appreciation to the people who are helping support me. Patreon is one way to support me. That's been fantastic. But I thank you. I'm really grateful. But it would be astounding to start selling more books because of this program. So a lot of the topics that I cover in the show end up being folded into my fiction, believe it or not. So it's kind of a continuation of the show in a way. So go check that out. You can find my books at kevintumlinson.com/books, which also needs an update. Everything needs an update. But otherwise, give me a call at 281-809-WORD, 281-809-9673 to ask me anything. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, this interview with Dr. Renee Matthews. Go check out her show, Ask Dr. Renee. You can see in the show notes there will be links to her website, her podcast and everything, her YouTube channel. And take care of yourselves out there. I don't know where you are. You may be in a drought. You may be in rains. You may be in snow. I don't know. It's June. I hope you're not in snow. Could happen. But take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you next week.
Word Slinger.